Hello everyone, in this opening lecture we're going to go through the layout of the course and Blackboard. So this is not just a simple review of the syllabus, it's to show you sort of a general overview of everything you'll need to do in this class. It should also answer in more detailed how you go about filling out assignments, exams, where you can find material, and all that other stuff. So I wanted to start by introducing myself and the course. So the name of this course is American Government National. I think the actual name is something different. It's Government and Politics of the United States. It's the exact same thing, doesn't really matter. This is POLS 2301. This is a totally online course. This is part of a two-part sequence that Texas A&M Kingsville offers, along with POLS 2302, which is Texas Politics, which are required for all students in the state of Texas to take, both POLS 2301 and 2302, regardless of your university. This course is going to survey all of American governmental institutions, as well as the way that us as citizens, we as people, interact with those institutions. So as it says here, my name is Dr. Travis Braidwood. I'm an associate professor of political science at Texas A&M Kingsville. I've taught here for about, I think this is going on my 6th year in the fall. I did my undergrad at the University of West Florida in Pensacola, and then I went on to Florida State University in Tallahassee to get my master's and my PhD in political science. There's my email here, and then also my office, which is in Road Hall, and I will have office hours. That information is also listed on the syllabus. So in terms of where this course fits in terms of political science is, for most universities, like in Florida, they only require students to take a social science course, but not necessarily political science. But for those of you that are going into the social sciences, or you're thinking about teaching, or really a lot of other fields that involve working with American governmental institutions, this will be something useful for you. For those of you that are majoring in political science, it's necessary because it's the bedrock for the study of American politics in particular, but also sort of how we look at political science as a whole. So where this course fits in terms of political science is, like really all social sciences, we have the discipline, like political science, and then we have sub-disciplines nested within it. So American politics would be considered one of those sub-disciplines, right? So for what I mean by that is when you go to grad school, for example, you would devote yourself typically to 2 of the sub-disciplines, and then you become sort of a master of those, because there's so much material to cover that it'd be impossible to cover all of the field, to be an expert in the entirety of it. So this course fits in, typically pairs with public policy, which is what I did. I focused on public policy, which is the study of, once we implement a law or a bureaucratic agency implements a policy, how then do we go about administering the policy, and is it effective or not, right? American politics is the study then of all things American politics, and then how we as citizens interact with those political institutions. So it's not just the institutions themselves, but also the groups and parties and the media all around the interaction with government at all levels, national, state, local, right? So you'll notice then, just to look at this bottom bit before I mention these other two, if you look at the things that are listed underneath of American politics that comprise it, these also correspond almost perfectly to the chapters in the textbook. We have the institutions, Congress, presidency, bureaucracy, judiciary. Those are all chapters. We have the organizations, both the formal ones in the form of political parties, and then also the informal ones in the form of, as it says somewhere down here, I guess it doesn't list them, but this is what it's referring to as political organizations. We're thinking about things like special interest groups or lobbying organizations, people trying to work from the outside in, right? Elections and voting behavior, so how we engage in selecting individuals, both formally in the way of elections and informally through things like protests or marches or writing mailing campaigns. Political psychology, so how we as people, as human beings, are able to store and recall political information. The theory behind those institutions. So political theory is referring to, I think political thought or political philosophy might be a better idea to understand what that means, and that is who thought up these principles for government. Where did they get the ideas from? Are they actually original, right? The units other than national, so subnational politics, we won't really be doing a lot of the subnational politics stuff, or political thought. We'll have a little bit in the beginning, but not a whole lot throughout, mostly because there's just not enough room in the course to fit all of this in there. But we'll do a little bit of it. Looking at different political organizations nested by or associated by demographic characteristics, right? So women's, gays, blacks, Latinos, right? So how these racial or ethnic or gender minorities try and influence the pressure system that is politics. And then finally, how we both communicate political information and how it's communicated to us through media and political advertisements, right? So we're going to be focusing almost exclusively on all of this stuff in American politics. We'll mention public policy in passing, but we're not really going to have, that's not really our focus, right? The other two, just in case you're curious, comparative politics looks at how different nations or different regions compare to one another. So typically what are called comparativists, people that study comparative politics, typically focus on a region. So think about like North America, South America, Southeast Asia, something like that. And they might really drill into the nations that comprise that. And they would look at how these nations are similar or different to one another. So for example, you might look at what causes a parliament to form and then form a coalition, and then what causes it to dissolve, something like that, right? It also will be comparing nations to one another. International relations looks at how the nations interact with one another on a global stage. So think about international trade, political economy, tariffs, war, civil war, right? Intranational and international organizations like the EU, humanitarian projects, the European Union, right? That would all fall under international relations. So the layout we're going to take in this course is there's really only two major ways to approach teaching American politics courses, and that is you either have a historical approach, so we say, here's how the American political institutions have changed over time, and that this often makes the United States look at something it's an exception, it's rarity, it's this diamond in the rough, and that explains why we're just so unique, because we're just unique, right? There's been a more recent push in the modern era, starting in about the 90s or maybe the early aughts, that said, well, let's take more of an economic approach to this, and that is really all government in itself is simply a solution to a collective action problem. We need everyone to work together to solve this one thing, and that is things like, domestic security, international security, stability. And so really government is just a solution to that. It takes on many forms, and that ours is simply one form amongst many. We're going to take mostly the historical approach. That tends to be the most common, and also gives you sort of a broader perspective, but we will look at this sort of rival economic approach as well. Okay, with that, let's flip over to the syllabus real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time sort of drilling into too much that's in here, reading it to you, because you can do that on your own. I just want to point out where some of the things in the syllabus are on Blackboard so that you can find them more easily. So, intro information, blah, 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 me, my email again, office hours. Office hours are open to anyone. You do not need appointment. The only thing I was going to say there is that if you do want to come by for office hours, come by anytime, but give me a good knock on the side of the door. My door is always open, but when I'm in my office, I don't have to wear a mask, so that way I know that somebody's coming and I can put my mask back on. But otherwise, just come by whenever you want. Best way to reach me is via email. I'm pretty quick at responding. Right? Course description, you can read that on your own time. You can read this on your own time. Learning objectives, you can read that on your own time. The readings. So we have one textbook. It's listed here, right? We're using We the People, the 13th edition. There is both a hardback version and a loose leaf. The loose leaf, I believe, is considerably cheaper. I think there might be a 14th edition out now. I try to use the older edition to save you money, and this also I try to tell you what it is in advance so that you can look up buying it online if you want to, because it's cheaper to buy a textbook online if you don't know that already, right? You can also use, if you wanted, it says here ebook or whatever, any sort of electronic version, totally fine. What I would recommend, if you want to buy it online, there's a bunch of websites you can check out. Here are a few of them, right? This is not an exhaustive list. One of the best things to try too is just use Google Shopping, and it'll compare multiple sites and multiple prices. You should be able to find it there. Now, one of the concerns you might have is, well, wait a minute. If I get the textbook, right, some of the readings, skipping down to the schedule of readings over here, some of the readings for the textbook start pretty early in the chapter. In the semester, excuse me. Here's chapter 2. More of chapter 2, here's chapter 3. So what do? I'm not going to have a textbook. I'm going to be, just out of luck. Well, I've thought of that. So what I did is I've scanned the readings for chapter 2 right here and chapter 3, and I put those on Blackboard. So you actually won't need the textbook. All this other stuff, by the way, is on Blackboard. It's not in the textbook, right? Anything that's not We the People by Patterson is not textbook material. That's why it's noted with a BB, right? Blackboard. So all the chapters 2 and 3, we're not reading chapter 1, are on Blackboard already for you. So that means you will not actually need the textbook until Chapter 4, which doesn't begin until September. So you have until from the beginning of the semester until basically almost the end of September to order that textbook if you want to do that online, right? Supplemental optional texts, these you won't need, but if you're interested in saving yourself some printing costs or you just don't like reading online materials, we're going to be looking at quite a few Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, and they're super cheap. They're like $1, right? And so yeah, that's our reading material. Everything else that is not in the textbook will be provided for you on Blackboard. So where is that information located on Blackboard? Let's go to the website and check it out. So here's our layout. Here's your course. It opens up to an announcement page. Currently, at the time of recording, there are no announcements, but I'll have one for you when the course begins. Syllabus for the course, so the document I'm showing you right now, or just a second ago, is located on the Syllabus tab. There it is. Here is where all the reading materials are. It's listed in something called Course Library. So within the course library, you'll see all of the reading materials. I'll explain what these first two things are in a second. You'll see all of the reading materials are sorted by week. So for weeks 1 through 4, 5 through 7, 8 through 12, and then weeks 13 through the end of the semester are all sorted into folders. And then within each folder, all the material is in chronological order. So everything you're looking for should be in the order it appears on the syllabus for you on Blackboard. So for example, going back to our first week, right? Week number 1, we have a reading by an excerpt from the Second Treatise of Government by John Locke. It lists it as Blackboard. Go to Blackboard, boom, there it is, the very first reading. So it should all be on there. If ever you get on here and there's something on the syllabus and it's not on Blackboard, just let me know and I can fix it as soon as I can, right? So while we're here, let's go ahead and look out the rest of the layout for this Blackboard site. We've got something called video lectures. This is going to be where all of your video lectures are. For you, you'll just have one folder so far. This is going to, again, they're going to be in chronological order. It's going to be sorted into folders, and then they will appear in order by topic, the same as on the syllabus. For the other remaining tabs, these create a question assignment, potential exam questions, and the exams themselves. Let me get to that in just a second after I explain what those are, because that gets into your assignments. Okay, so let's go back to... There's our thing. So this is our rubric for the course. How can you earn 100 points? How can you earn, a good grade? Well, there are 5 different sources of grades in this course. You'll have 3 of those 5 are exams. Exam 1, Exam 2, and Exam 3, which is the final. So let me zoom in just a little bit for you. There we go, that's better. Exam 1 is, you'll notice, is worth 15 points. Exam 2 and 3 are worth 20 points, respectively. So the reason why I do this is because that way if you bomb the first exam, it hurts you less than bombing the second and third exams, right? So these taken together, exams 1, 2, and 3, are worth a total of 55 points. You'll notice that if you add up 15 plus 20 plus 20 plus 10 plus 35, which are all of the assignments listed in this rubric, it sums to 100 points. So at any given time, you want to know your grade, it's very, very easy. All you have to do is, as long as you can do simple subtraction, you can go to the Blackboard site. There's a tab called My Grades at the very bottom, and you'll click on it, and then the very first thing you'll see is a column called Total. And then that'll tell you what the sum of all of your points is so far. So as we get moving through the semester, if ever you need to know where you've earned points or lost points or what your maximum score could be, you can figure that out really easily, because it tells you all the potential points here in this sort of grayed out, and then it'll tell you all of your earned points at the top and over here in black and bold. So it'd be very easy to figure out. I always hated when I took undergraduate courses, I would get, and even graduate courses, I'd get professors that would say, like, you can earn 1,200 points, or you can earn 1,500 points, and it's like, you need, this many points to whatever. It's just like, just give me out of 100. Stop making me convert all of these numbers. Just give me a simple score I can understand. That's what I try to do here. At any time, as long as you can add and subtract, you can figure out what your grade currently is and then what your maximum could be. Right? Okay, the next grade, 10 points, is for viewership. So let's look at viewership and see what that means. So, viewership is just that. It's not actually participation, it's just viewership. Right? So all you have to do to earn the full credit, 10 points for viewership, is, as it says here, you're going to watch the video lectures. Blackboard has a way of keeping track of if you click the link for a video lecture. So if I say go to Blackboard, all of your lectures for the course are going to look just like this. It's going to be me voicing over the slides. The plus side is that if you're, let's say, you know the information I'm already talking about, you can skip ahead. Right? You don't have to watch every single second of it. All you have to do is watch as much as you need. Right? So if I get into a topic, you got it, you can skip. All I need from you is to make sure you've clicked the link. So each one of these corresponds to a video, right? You can see it's in chronological order here. I don't need you to watch the entire thing. I just need you to click on the link. And here's one thing I want to warn you about, and I think the syllabus says it. Let me double check. Yeah, here it is. Note, be sure not to open the video links in new tabs from Blackboard. For some reason, the system doesn't always return these as viewed. I found out the hard way recently that somebody was right-clicking on one of these, and then they were clicking opening on new tab or something like that, and it wasn't saying that they actually ever clicked on the video. So make sure you're clicking on this video, and then from there, I think actually this might open it to the new tab automatically. Yeah, it does. Okay, so this just opens to the video itself. All of these videos, by the way, are on YouTube. I don't think you can download them, but I mean, it's YouTube. You can watch it pretty much anywhere you want, right? So once it's there, it's just like a Blackboard video. You can skip ahead, jump around. I don't care. Do whatever you want, right? But again, click on the links to get the credit. So as it says here, after the week is over, at the end of every week, which, by the way, as it says on the syllabus, every week begins on... Oh, wrong tab. Every week begins on Sunday at midnight, 12:01 a.m., a little after midnight, and then ends the following Saturday, right? So it's a full 7 days. You have a full 7 days to watch the posted videos. As long as you watch it within that week, you click on the link, technically, within that week, you will get the credit. So at the end of the week, I'll look at everyone to see if they've watched the video or not, and then I'll assign you credit based on if you did or didn't. Right, so you need to watch that video before the week is over to earn the credit. There are 15 weeks of lectures, so this works out to about 0.66 points for every week. And if you did the math on that, it adds up to 10. Right, it's like 0.66 times 15 equals 10. So there you go. Right, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is click on the thing, the video there. I'm not keeping track of how much you watch it or how long. I just need to make sure that you're actually clicking on it. Very, very simple. Right. So let's get back to our rubric. So that's got us through Exam 1, Exam 2, Exam 3, and the viewership. Now, you might have one question left over. One, what are these exams going to look like? And two, what does this create a question assignment? I saved this one for last because answering this create a question assignment, right, is going to explain what these exams are going to look like. So here's what they are. Create a question assignments. This one is, I'm going to try and explain it simply, but if you get confused, just check the syllabus. But I wanted to point out this because I'm going to show you on Blackboard where to submit them. Here's how it's going to work. Every week, you have reading assignments, right? There's quite a few things to read, and there's a schedule of readings at the very bottom of the syllabus. I just showed you this a second ago, right? Here's week 2, week 3, week 4, and it goes on and on and on. Then here are the readings for those weeks, right? So for the create a question assignments, what I want you to do is I want you to read the material for the week. And by the way, you should read the material before you watch the video. It won't make a whole lot of sense otherwise. And then what you need to do is you need to generate 2 questions per week per CAQ assignment, right? I should say not per week, but rather 2 per create a question assignment, which I'm simply going to call CAQ. And then you need to post those to Blackboard before the week ends. So this is a very, very simple task. You're writing 2 multiple choice questions per week and then submitting them to Blackboard before the week is over. So you might be thinking, well, what are you looking for in terms of questions? Where should I submit these things? That's answered for you right here, right? So to remind you that here's how long a week is. Now here's what I'm looking for in terms of questions. I want these questions to be multiple choice, and I give you a guide that tells you how those questions should look, right? So where is that guide? If you go to Blackboard, back into that course library, there is 2 things that will help you. One, a guide to writing multiple choice questions. This is a 14-point guide. Some of them are very, very simple. It's things like use good grammar, make sure all of your answers are plausible, stuff like that. Some of them might be less known to you. It's based on research, based on education research. Do things like, don't have one answer that's really longer than the others because it makes it stand out. Don't have one that's a lot shorter than the others. Never use all of the above or none of the above because those don't test knowledge, right? So the first thing you want to do before ever attempting to write questions is check over that guide. Most of these are intuitive, but still check over it. I've also then provided for you a number of example questions here on Blackboard. So let's take a look. This one thing I note here at the top of this PDF, let's see if I can zoom in on this bad boy. Yeah, there we go. So these are example creative questions, and I tell you something. Look at the formatting. I need 4 possible answers. No true false, no ABCs, right? No A or B. It's got to be A, B, C, D. And I'll tell you why in a second. Also, it says at the bottom that you'll notice that you have your question text, right? You've got your 4 possible answers, A, B, C, D. You have an asterisk, a star, indicating the correct answer. Here it's answer A. And then finally, you have an explanation here at the bottom. One thing I would recommend for doing then is when you're writing your 2 multiple choice questions per CAQ assignment, is simply go into this thing, copy and paste this into Word, and then just rewrite it, right? So then you have a template. You could just go through, change the question text, change all the answers, and then change the explanation and the page citation. And wham, bam, boom, you've got your perfect formatting, right? I also tell you a few other things here. Notice, do not use none of the above, do not use all of the above, do not use A and C or A and B type answers, and then also read that 14-point guide before you attempt your submissions. What I'm looking for these questions is listed in the rubric. Formatting. Does it match the formatting exactly? Is it question text, A, B, C, D, asterisk on correct answer, explanation? It needs to be perfectly like that. And again, I'll explain why in a second. Is the source correct? Meaning, is it based on the assigned reading for that week? What I mean by that is, for example, here's creative question number 1, CAQ number 1. It needs to be based on these readings, right? Not these, not these, these. It needs to be based on the readings for that week. In other words, read first, then write your multiple choice questions, then submit them, right? And then finally, do you have an asterisk, on the correct answer? And is it actually correct? You'd be surprised how many people get that wrong. They'll actually have a wrong answer on a question they wrote themselves, but you got to have your answer has to be right, and that the explanation is correct, right? So did you explain why it's correct? You need to give me that explanation at the bottom. It's not enough to simply give me the question. You need the explanation and the page citation. Again, because I need to cross-check your answers, right? Your questions, rather. And then finally, is it a good question? Does it abide by the rules? Are you actually putting forth effort here, or are you just trying to, assume I don't notice that you're writing bad questions? Finally, when you're done, where do you submit these bad boys? You go to, wrong tab. You go to Create a Question Submissions, appropriately named, and then take a look at this page here. It's got a few other reminders before you submit. It's got the rubric. The rubric looks exactly the same as, whoops, wrong thing. Looks exactly the same as this. This is the rubric. And then it has some reminders. Did you mark the correct answer? Did you write your 2 questions in the word processor? Do not upload documents. I cannot download, 30 questions per, 30 submissions per class, and I have all these classes. It would take forever, right? Do they match the formatting and blah, 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 blah. So that's, reminding you to not make these errors. So here's what it looks like when you go to submit. It'll load the CAQ assignment page, and then it'll tell you how many points it's worth. Each one of them is worth 2.5 points. And you go into write submission, and then you'll write it into here. So I'll write question. Now, if you notice if I just hit return, it does that. That's fine. Don't worry about the spacing between the letters. If you want it to just do one level below, hold shift and then press return, and it'll look like that. So I've got answer A, answer B. I'm just showing you just for a quick example, answer D. And then I need my explain, and then page citation, right? And then, of course, you need your asterisk on the correct answer. If you need more space, you can drag and expand the text box as big as you need. And then, so there's our first question. Remember, I need to submit 2 per assignment, so then I'll just simply paste my second question below. What I would recommend, which is in the syllabus, somewhere in here. There it is. I recommend it here, and it's also on the page that we were on just before on the Create a Question Assignments Submissions homepage. I would recommend writing your 2 questions in a word processor, like Microsoft Word or something like that, and then pasting them into this text box. It makes it a lot easier. And it says that right here too, right? I recommend you write it somewhere else and then paste it in there. Yeah. So I've got my 2 questions. So what if I'm worried about the formatting? How is this going to look for me, the professor that grades it? There's a tab over here at the top left that says Preview, right? Click that Preview button. It's going to pop up another text box, and it's going to show me, that's how it's going to look to me. Exactly how it will appear when I go to grade it, right? You can do things like you want to manipulate the font, the paragraph font size, all of that's in there, but again, I would recommend doing it in the word processor and just pasting it in here. One note, do not attach files. You should never be using this. Do not submit it into this comments tab. If you submit it in the comments tab, it's going to take all this lovely formatted stuff, and it's going to bunch it all together. I don't know if it'll do it when I do it on here. Let's see. It's going to bunch it all together. Well, here it looks normal on here, but when I get it, it crunches it all into one line. You need to write it in the text box, right? In here, not in the right submission thing, not in the comments. If you have a comment for me, you can leave it there and I'll see it. But don't put your submissions in there because you'll lose points on formatting. So then when you're done, you're done. You submit it. Bam. Now, what if you submitted and you realize it won't let me do it because I'm not a student? What if you submit and you're like, oh crap, I just realized I made an error, right? Or something messed up, or this question looks kind of broken, or something like that. You can always go back in and then resubmit. The only limitation is that once that week is over, that's it. So once we're, where's our first assignment? There it is. So the first week ends September 6th, which is a Saturday, at 11:59 p.m. Once that hits the stroke of midnight, that's it, right? I'm not going to accept any more assignments. Now, technically, full disclosure, Blackboard does not prevent you from doing it. I don't have a timer set. I could, but I don't really care. But when I sit down to grade, technically, if it's midnight at 6 on the September 6th, I could start grading. And maybe if I'm extraordinarily bored, which is unlikely, I might start grading right away. If it's not in there when I sit down to grade, 0. And there is no late submission. The reason why is because, 1, that would be a pain in the butt for me to have to deal with all these late submissions. 2, you have an entire week to do the assignment, right? You have a full week to write 2 multiple choice questions. That should not be a burden, and you can work ahead. So let's say, oh, I know that, September, 14th, I'm going to have like a dentist appointment. I might be busy that day. Fine. Submit your questions either later in that week or do them a week ahead, right? It doesn't take that much time to write 2 multiple choice questions. So there really should be no excuse to do that, right? There should be no excuse at all to have late assignments. So make sure you get those questions in there. What am I doing with these questions? Why am I making you write multiple choice questions? 2 reasons. 1, I want to see that you're actually reading the material because it's impossible to write these questions without reading the material because that's what they're based on. I want to see that you're actually understanding the material, and that's done in your explanation, right? And 3 is I want to take these questions and I'm going to have you guys write some of your exam. I'm going to take the best, where does it say it here? There it is. I'm going to take the best of these where's the exam section? There it is. I'm going to take the best of these multiple choice questions, and I am going to I'm going to add some of my own, and then I'll take the ones that you guys submit, and those are going to constitute your exams, the bulk of them anyway. So at 80% of your exam is going to be multiple choice questions, and it's going to be from your peers that wrote really good questions and myself that wrote my own questions, which hopefully are good. Right. So what I'm going to do, and this is why the formatting has to be perfect on these multiple choice questions. I'm going to take the best of those questions, and then I'm going to go into, I'm going to make a PDF file, and I'm going to make one giant study guide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import them into this folder called potential exam questions. Currently for you, this is empty because it hasn't been written yet. So then within each of these exam questions folders, I will put a PDF file, and it's going to have multiple choice questions. And what I'll do is I'll take those best questions, right, and I'll remove that asterisk that shows the correct answer, and I'll remove the explanation. And I'll give you a file of all of your potential multiple choice questions that will appear on your exams. So think about the benefit then of writing really good questions. If I write a good question, it's more likely it's going to appear in the exam, right? And if I write a good question, I'm going to earn full credit on the create a question assignment. So you have this dual incentive to write really good questions. This also means that the lowest grade you should get on any exam is an 80, because in advance, I'm going to give you all of those multiple choice questions, and those make up 80% of the exam grade. So you should never go below an 80, right? The remaining questions then are going to be these. So we got those multiple choice questions. There's also going to be some short answer. There might be some identification and short essay questions, right? I will write those. Now, where I get those from, I will tell you in the lectures. I'll say, okay, it's from this, it's from this. Sometimes it might be directly from the book, but it's going to be like sort of a big picture kind of question. And I'm going to give you a heads up about those. There's also going to be some bonus questions on the exams as well, so it's possible to earn over 100 points, and every semester somebody invariably does. And if you exceed 100 points, then it rolls over and boosts your final grade, right? So again, just to summarize this process, every week, 2 create a question questions, right, for every create a question assignment. Those questions then will go towards helping write your exams. You will be given those multiple choice questions in advance, and then that is the bulk of the course, right? It's a very simple layout. The one thing I want to note for you, though, is that this seems to confuse people is this. Notice, this is the CAQ submission folder, right? The assignment number, CAQ number 1. So if I go to Blackboard, create a question submissions, it needs to go here. Create a question number 1. A lot of people get confused on this, and it's going to happen anyway. It's not in the week 2 folder. It's in the assignment folder, right? So these weeks and these assignments don't line up. You'll notice that it's pretty much every week. I think it pretty much is every week all the way to the end of the semester. So it's CAQ through 1 through 14, and again the weeks do not line up, so don't let that confuse you. And then you'll notice it goes 1 to 14 on here as well, right? And those of you that can do the math in your head, if you multiply, since each create a question assignment is worth 2.5 points, 2.5 times 14 equals 35, and that is where I get the 35 points to your final grade. Right. So really, your only thing every week is it's just 2 or 3 things. Watch the video lectures. That's 3 things. Watch the video lectures. Read the assignments. Create 2 questions based on those reading assignments. Right. It's very, very straightforward. It's not hard at all. And then of course, when the exams happen, you'll have to take the exams. Okay. I think that's got us through most of the stuff. Let me see. Did that. You can read this on your own time. Email system, definitely use it. It's a great idea. It's located here. Send email. It has, if you pull it up, it'll have everyone's email in the class. It'll send it directly to them via the email, the university email. If you haven't, by the way, synced that to your phone, you should. Make sure you getting push notifications, because if a teacher ever cancels a class or does something like that, it's a good idea to get that push notification if you haven't done that already. And you'll definitely want to do that because it ends up with these study guides for the exams with a lot of multiple choice questions that could potentially appear on an exam. I'm not going to use all of them, but any of them could appear. So it's good to break up that task and get study groups going, right? Drop policy, you can do that. You can do that on your own. And then again, remember, a week begins Sunday and ends the following Saturday. All of these dates, by the way, this is a Sunday, and then the 30th is a Saturday. It's always a full 7 days. Okay, the last thing is just the reading assignments. Let me see. Oh yeah, just 2 more things. Let me do the last thing first. So you can read all of this on your own time. The exams are noted on the syllabus. I tried to make the readings a bit lighter for exam weeks. Remember, the BB indicates that it's on Blackboard, and then I wanted to point out I didn't list it on here. Well, it doesn't really affect you guys that much anyway, but for those of you that were going to stop by during office hours, the university is converting completely to online after the Thanksgiving holiday, which I think is this week. I think it's like week 14. Doesn't really affect you guys anyway, but if you're thinking of stopping by my office hours after the Thanksgiving holiday, don't, because I'm not going to be there, because the entire university is switching to online because they're trying to prevent like a COVID thing or whatever. There's also the possibility that if we have an outbreak that the university might switch back to totally online, and which if they do, I'll tell you, and it just means that office hours will be canceled and we'll have to meet either online or via email or something like that. Again, final exam open for an entire week. The exams will also be open for the entire week that they're listed on here. Okay, the very last thing I want to leave you with is this. I want you to look for 3 things, and I'll post this in the announcement when I post the video too, so if you can't write it down in time, it should be posted with the video, so don't worry about it. But I want you to look for 3 things when doing the first week of readings, there we go, besides this syllabus stuff. And I want you to look to answer these questions. So I'm talking about Locke, Montesquieu, and Rousseau. And here are the 3 questions. Wrong thing. Firstly, when reading Locke and Rousseau, look for these the answers to these 3 questions, and they both talk about it. For Locke and Rousseau, they ask, what is the state of nature? Each of them is going to define it differently. So figure out how they define the state of nature. Secondly, what are natural rights? And if they talk about natural justice, I think only Rousseau really talks about natural justice, but if they talk about that, see what it is, right? What is the social contract? Or I think Rousseau might call it the social compact as opposed to social contract, or maybe I have it the other way around. See what that's defined as. For Montesquieu, what is the proper size of a republic? And I should probably say, and why, according to Montesquieu. 2, what are the 3 types of power, according to Montesquieu? And then 3, what does he say about the separation of powers? Okay, and then that's it. When we come back, you can look for those answers when we resume.